Alright, so a little while ago, a long while ago, I talked a little bit about just how influential Disney's Aladdin is towards Hollywood animated movies.
Prince Ali, fabulous he, Ali Ababa.
Pretty much at this point, almost every animation studio has borrowed a little bit from Aladdin. Most notably DreamWorks, the WB, to the completely inconsequential. However, no other company was more aware of Aladdin's success than Disney itself. So much so that they decided to remake the movie. And no, I'm not talking about the TV series or any of the straight-to-video sequels. I'm actually talking about a movie that was released into cinemas by the Walt Disney Animation Studios. Of course, I'm talking about Hercules. What? I'm totally serious. These two are exactly the same movie. Let's go down the list, shall we? Both movies were directed by Ron Clements and John Musker. Both movies star a young, outcasted male protagonist. Both are set in an ancient time and place laced with American undertones. Or in the case of Hercules, it's overtones, but I'll get to that later. Both have a wisecracking mystical best friend voiced by a famous actor. Both heroes have a falling out with wisecracking mystical best friends, which leads to a fall from grace. Before everything is set right again with a big giant fight, insert coming of age moral here, they all live happily ever after, and we give Disney all of our money, the end. See? Oh yeah, I know it's formulaic as hell, but what can I say? It's a pretty damn good formula. And it's Disney. They copy themselves all the damn time. It's their own property. It's what they do. So for today, we're gonna take a look at the movie's strengths, weaknesses, and how even though it very much resembles Aladdin, it still ends up the weaker out of the two, especially in the eyes of the Disney company and its fans. In the past, I actually had a hard time grasping at why this movie got the mixed reviews that it did. Like, okay, yes, I know the plot is punctured with so many holes you can use it as a scepter. And yes, what if Greece hated the movie so much it forbid the company from premiering it in its country? And so what if the directors initially only made this movie because Jeffrey Katzenberg was keeping the movie they really wanted to make as hostage? And, what point was I trying to make again? Screw it. What I'm trying to say is that regardless of all of its flaws, this movie is just way too much fun to dislike. In fact, I often find myself liking this movie for some of the very same reasons it's criticized for. Some people have taken issue with the movie ripping off Superman, which, okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. It is not that similar. Okay, maybe it's almost completely identical, but again, is that honestly a deal breaker? Especially when you consider the fact that most superheroes take direct influence from Greek mythology, sometimes to the point of it being painfully obvious. So really, in my eyes, this is just a circle of borrowing being completed. And you can definitely tell the makers of this movie are huge comic book fans, so if anything, this is more of an homage than a ripoff, and a pretty entertaining one at that. Very much like Aladdin, the most consistent criticism I've heard about this movie is once again the pop cultural references, which this time I kinda do agree with, if just a little bit. Now, Aladdin got away with this because all of the modern day references were made by the genie who had
phenomenal cosmic powers!
Exactly. Whereas in Hercules, most of the modern-day references are made by the human civilians.
Stick with me, kid. This city is a dangerous place.
Look where you're going, numbskull!
Hey, I'm walking here!
And yet, the film also has its share of mystical beings with the power of foresight, but they only appear twice in the film. The funniest thing they had to offer was a plumbing joke. Also, whereas Aladdin knew when to tone it down, Hercules kind of goes off the freaking deep end. Mass production, credit cards, soda pop, Air Jordans, action figures. And you even have this one moment of Hercules flying through a constellation of Marilyn Monroe, and it's not even like an ancient Greek version of Marilyn Monroe. It's just like, blam! Marilyn Monroe circa the 7-year itch. And back to the Americanization of an ancient culture, Thebes, Greece isn't even Thebes anymore. It's just 1970s New York. So yes, I can definitely understand why a lot of people were taken out of the film because of these jokes. But they also provide something you would never expect from an animated Disney film. Satire. Honest to the gods, smart, on the point, biting satire. Well, okay, as biting as Disney can get. This is some pretty astute commentary on society's obsession with celebrity culture coming from a kid-friendly company. And dare I say it, it's even poking fun at Disney itself for its own marketing ploys. Most importantly, the satire ties in directly with the main character's development, which actually brings me to the real problem I have with this movie. Hercules himself. Now here's the thing. I don't dislike Hercules. I'm actually quite fond of this character. I think he's freaking adorkable. The problem isn't that he's unlikable. He's just not very compelling. Which, what do you know, basically sums up this movie in a nutshell. And it's a real shame too, because he has all the makings of a really decent character arc. He starts off as a well-meaning yet misguided dorker doofus who only wants glory for the sake of glory. A selfish motivation, sure, but a perfectly understandable one, especially once you see all the crap he had to put up with. All of this makes him a perfectly sympathetic character with room for growth, which leads to the question, when did the movie start to drop the ball?
I'm afraid being famous isn't the same as being a true hero.
What more can I do?
It's something you have to discover for yourself.
But how can I...
Look inside your heart.
Father, wait!
I'm sorry, I am not buying this. Are we supposed to feel sorry for him? Why? Even if he doesn't get into Mount Olympus, what does he actually lose? Regardless of whether he becomes a god or not, he still has everything he ever wanted. He's famous, he's respected, he's adulated beyond all compare. He wants for nothing. Your life is great! And this point is even more beleaguered when we immediately cut to his giant palace of a mansion, where he complains some more about being rejected by the Mount Olympus Country Club. Here's the really ironic thing. They did the exact same thing in Aladdin. By the end of the second act, Aladdin also has everything he ever wanted, only to quickly realize he's achieved all of it through no merit of his own, and he suffers a moral dilemma because of it. With Hercules, what is his moral conflict?
I'm afraid being famous isn't the same as being a true hero.
Yes, that is true, and a really good moral to have in your movie. It's just that there is never any real follow-through. Hercules never really seems to get any real insight, does he? Like, there's no indication where he realizes that he's just traded in one extreme for another, or that he's been doing all of these heroic things for the wrong reason. Even more disconcerting is that Phil's pep talk only encourages him to stay the course without providing any real wisdom. But nah, who needs any real introspection when you can have Meg propel the plot for you?
First that restaurant by the bay, and then that play, that Oedipus thing? Man, I thought I had problems.
You guys went and saw Oedipus on a first date? Jeez, Meg, maybe if you didn't bring him to see the incest play, you could have closed the deal by now. Questionable flirting aside, however, Megara really is one of the best things about this movie. Next to Hades, of course. Pretty much the Lois Lane to Hercules' Clark Kent. She's sarcastic, confident, vulnerable, a little morally ambiguous, and is definitely one of the more consciously sexy heroines that Disney has ever created. Well, okay, maybe not quite as sexual as, say, Esmeralda, or Jessica Rabbit, or Helga from Atlantis.
I came down the chimney. Ho, ho, ho.
Disney! Getting back to Hercules, the writing for his arc never really regains its footing, and if anything, the moral he's supposed to embody kind of falls apart at the end.
Fine work, my boy. You've done it. You're a true hero.
You were willing to give your life to rescue this young woman?
Yeah, because you know that time when I was without my superpowers and being used as a hacky sack by a 100-foot Cyclops in order to protect an entire city, that was purely just for fun. Also, wasn't Hercules impulsively jumping in to save Meg the very thing that screwed you guys over to begin with? And now you're rewarding him for doing the exact same thing? Just screw it, just cue the musical number. Yeah, even as a fan of the movie, objectively speaking, it's definitely one of Disney's more flawed attempts. If Aladdin was the popcorn movie of the Disney Renaissance, Hercules is really more of that oily, salty butter substance that's on the popcorn, the sugary soda to wash it down with. Could the movie have been any better? Oh yeah, definitely. But do the mistakes of this movie diminish the enjoyability of it? Nah, I don't think so. Whereas Aladdin definitely had a better balance of fun and substance, you could definitely tell Hercules concentrated more on the fun, which I'm totally okay with. Most of the comedy hits its marks, the characters are still memorable and endearing, the artwork is of course superb, and the film is definitely not without some clever commentary. The movie isn't the strongest contender in the Disney lot, but it can still go the distance if you give it a chance. Thank you again for watching, it's been a real slice, and I will see you guys in the next frame.